This video is about the new aluminum mast system from Moses. You can see the base plate that comes with it. This is the new aluminum mast. Has a very similar extrusion to the Slingshot mast. You can see that is the Moses aluminum mast. This is the Slingshot aluminum mast there. The Moses, believe it or not, is actually a little heavier. What's interesting about the Moses, look how big that base plate is. This is the Moses base plate. That's the Slingshot. I never thought I'd find an aluminum system heavier than the Slingshot, but the Moses is actually heavier. The bottom has these cutouts that are kind of cool. Look at that. You can kind of see it there. Yeah. It's going to use panhead bolts to secure it. I do not like this type of securing system because those pan heads can actually slide out. There's no countersunk hole on those, but they're using pan heads just because their regular base plate uses pan heads. So this system, the aluminum short mast from Moses, I thought that they'd make one that you could use with the original, kind of angled, shimmed fuselage. Look how beautiful this fuselage is. The original fuselage, but they didn't. If you get the aluminum mast system, which is about $123, and the base plate for $200, you have to buy the $223 aluminum fuselage, which has a cutout and uses a attachment system similar to Slingshot with a couple of bolts, as you see here. And that's how it has to go. It has to be this one. Now this fuselage looks different. I'm going to put these two next to each other. It's a lot different looking than the regular one. See those machine grooves? You can kind of see the machining on the shimmed normal fuselage, and then kind of the black matte finish on the aluminum one. I think it might be cast, but it doesn't look as nice as the full-on one. So what I'd recommend is, I'd still recommend using the Moses to Slingshot Adapter, this guy here, and just use it on the Moses system, and then forego getting the less expensive aluminum fuselage and just get the good one. Because later on, when you get a carbon fiber mast, like maybe you already have one, you can just use the same fuselage, right? I'm going to show you how this works. This is the adapter that makes the Slingshot system. The Slingshot system fit onto the Moses, but it can also work with the new aluminum Moses mast, this one right here, right? So we're just going to put this guy on the end of this, install it.
With these custom titanium handmade bolts, here we're going to screw these in.
So that's in. You can see this fits the exact same as it would on the Slingshot mast. We're going to fit this into the normal fuselage. So again, this is the normal fuselage that fits on the normal Moses mast system. God, that thing's nice and light. This is the aluminum fuselage that you have to use with this without that adapter, right? Okay, so we're just going to pop this guy on there, like so.
Put the retaining bolts in.
There it is. So now you have a short mast solution that fits on the Moses with your normal fuselage. The aluminum fuselage here, I think it's like $225 for this. So instead of buying two fuselages only to use the cheaper short aluminum mast, just use the adapter, and it works great for either one. Next, we're going to try to work this Moses mast with the Slingshot fuselage and wing. The issue with that is the extrusion has to be exact to fit into the Slingshot wings, but we're going to do that here quick. Okay, so I just tried putting this Slingshot Apollo wing on the Moses aluminum mast, and I didn't actually measure these. They just looked, they just looked identical, right? But per usual, they are different. You can kind of see it's a little thinner back here. This does not fit on the Slingshot system. You cannot fit it in there, so I'll kind of try and show you on camera. When this goes in, it has to fit. It has to be identical to fit on the Slingshot, and it doesn't. The outside profile of this is different just enough. Well, it will not fit on there. So I guess the options are this. You can get an aluminum mast from Moses with the base plate, which is $200 for the base plate, $123 for the mast. That's a 75 centimeter mast. And you can use it with a adapter for $70. And then you can get the standard Moses fuselage that will fit the carbon mast as well, and then get whatever wings you want. That's one option. Or you can get the $123 mast, aluminum mast, the $200 base plate, and then the $225 aluminum fuselage, and then only use it with the aluminum setup. The other option is you can go with the Slingshot setup, a $99 mast with a $59 base plate and a adapter for the normal fuselage for $70, and then go that route. So you'll save a couple $100 doing it that way. You get to the same thing in the end. In my mind, it makes sense to go the route where you're using the normal Moses fuselage, so that in the future, if you want to get a nice carbon mast, it will work. So I actually had to order this stuff, and get it in and kind of try it out myself. I read, the info, and I talked to people, but it's just one of those things until you get it and kind of play around with it and start trying to see what fits. Hopefully this was helpful, and answered some of the questions you guys had. This is the part that really freaked me out. I don't understand why they did it this way. I would have made some way for this to just hook up to the standard fuselage. I think that's kind of obvious to do it that way, but they decided to make a new fuselage for the aluminum setup, and that's just the way they did it. So, okay, so this is a spreadsheet with the prices we talked about. We're doing this including the fuselage, so we're kind of assuming it's your first buy. The reason I'm making all these different options is it's a big deal that you can't use the carbon mast with the normal aluminum fuselage from Moses. That's a big deal. Just if you have a couple different masts and one of them's aluminum, you have to have two different fuselages. So this is the standard Moses setup, including the fuselage, the 75 centimeter mast, the base plate, the aluminum fuselage that only works with the aluminum mast. $547. This is the setup with an adapter, so it's the same items. It has an adapter so that you can use it with the more expensive but compatible fuselage that will work with the carbon mass here. So that's a little more expensive, $742. Maybe worth the upgrade if you think you're going to use a longer carbon mass with your setup later. Go with the better fuselage and for down the road. And then finally, the Slingshot setup. So the Slingshot setup's almost the same price, but it includes a more expensive fuselage and then that adapter plate. So this is a 71 centimeter mast and base plate. You can see their base plate and mast is just so much cheaper. So if you were using this as a shallow water solution, like we have a lot of guys here who buy a 101 Moses setup and then they want to buy, a 24-inch mast just for shallow water, that's going to be just these three items right here, which is $248. So it's incredibly cheap because you already have the fuselage from the your Moses setup with the carbon mast. So just some stuff to think about. We have all these items in different configurations in stock. If you want to call the shop or email us, to get some help, some specific help, we can do that. Or just stay tuned. Hopefully this helped you out.